This channel shares Billy Graham's classic sermons for educational and inspirational purposes only. All content is used under fair use policy.
When God speaks, something within you begins to shake. Your spirit recognizes the movement of the Almighty. You don't just hear it with your ears, you feel it deep within your soul. You may not be able to describe it, yet you know a sacred truth has just been unveiled. And when God declares, "This is your person," it's not a suggestion, it's not uncertainty, it's divine instruction. Heaven itself is giving direction to your destiny. The Creator is weaving your path with another for a holy purpose. Do not overlook it. There are rare moments when God brings someone into your life and everything feels different. It doesn't feel strained. It doesn't feel hurried. It feels divine. It feels like something that was written long before you were born. And deep down, you know this connection is not ordinary. It's ordained. God does not make random connections. Every meeting in your life has meaning, but some carry eternal purpose. Some people are sent to unlock doors that have been closed for years. Some are sent to heal wounds that nobody else could reach. Some are sent to awaken your soul and align you with your calling. And when God says this is your person, He is saying, "I have chosen them for you because they are part of your destiny." But so many people miss it. They doubt. They fear. They reason with their mind what can only be understood by the Spirit. They look at appearances instead of listening to the whisper of God. They walk away from what heaven sent because it didn't come in the package they expected. And later, they look back with tears in their eyes and realize they ignored the very answer to their prayer. My friend, do not let that be you. When God speaks, obey. When God confirms, trust. When God says, "This is your person," hold on to that revelation. Even if the world doesn't understand, God knows the seasons of your life. He knows the people you need in each season. He knows when your heart is ready to love and when your soul is ready to receive. You may have waited years, been betrayed, been broken, been rejected, but all of that pain was preparation. You were not waiting in vain. You were being refined, reshaped, and realigned for a divine connection that is meant to build you, not break you. You had to go through the wrong one so that when the right one came, you would recognize the difference. When God says this is your person, it is not just about romance, it's about destiny. This person will not just fit into your life, they will carry part of your purpose. There are people you meet who seem ordinary to everyone else, but to your soul they feel familiar. It's as if you've known them before. You feel peace when they speak. You feel calm when they are near. That's not emotion. That's divine recognition. Your spirit knows what your mind cannot yet comprehend. God places an invisible thread between two souls that are meant to walk together. You may not understand why. You may not even plan it. But when God says this is your person, every part of your being will testify that it's true. But here's the danger. Many ignore God's choice because they are still wounded by the past. They build walls that keep out the very one God sent to heal them. They compare God's gift to people who hurt them before. They let fear speak louder than faith. And fear always drives away what faith was meant to hold. God doesn't want you to overthink His blessing. He wants you to trust His wisdom. When He chooses someone for you, He's not asking for your approval. He's revealing His plan. God sees beyond what you see. You might say, "But God, they're not what I expected." And God replies, "That's because I'm not giving you what you expected. I'm giving you what you need." You may think you know what's best for you, but God knows what will bring peace to your soul and strength to your future. His choice is always perfect, even if it doesn't match your preference. When God chooses, He doesn't look at status, wealth, or appearance. He looks at the heart. He looks at character. He looks at faith. He looks at who will walk with you through the storm, not just in the sunshine. When God says, "This is your person," He's giving you someone who will pray for you, not prey on you. Some of you asking God for a sign, but He already gave it. He already spoke. You're just afraid to move. You're waiting for another confirmation when heaven has already sent 5. You keep asking God, "Is it really them?" And God is saying, "How many times must I show you? The peace in your spirit is my confirmation. The alignment in your heart is my voice. The doors that opened when they entered your life, that was me. Stop doubting what I already settled in heaven." When God says, "This is your person," it's not your job to understand everything. It's your job to trust. Trust is the language of faith. Faith doesn't need the full picture. It just needs one word from God, and when that word comes, you move. You step out, you obey. Because obedience always unlocks blessing. Some of the greatest heartbreaks in life come not because God failed us, but because we ignored His direction. We walked away from what He ordained. We chose our will over His word. And then we ask God, "Why is my heart empty?" Because you can't fill a soul void with your own understanding. Only divine obedience can fill that space. When God says this is your person, that means He has prepared that soul to walk beside you. Not to compete, not to control, not to consume, but to complete. And completion is not about dependency, it's about divine partnership. 2 souls walking in alignment with the will of God can move mountains together. When one falls, the other lifts. When one doubts, the other believes. When one cries, the other intercedes. That's the kind of person God sends. Not someone who drains your peace, but someone who strengthens your spirit. And yes, there will be challenges. Even when God chooses, there will be trials. But those trials don't mean you made the wrong choice. They mean God is refining the bond. Every true connection will be tested. Fire reveals authenticity. If it's from God, it will not break under pressure. It will grow stronger through it. So when difficulties come, don't run, pray, stay, build. For what God ordains, no man can destroy. What God joins, no distance can separate. What God blesses, no curse can touch. When He says, "This is your person," even the storms of life must bow to that word. Sometimes God hides His chosen one in plain sight. You might overlook them because they don't come with flash or fame. But pay attention to peace. Peace is heaven's fingerprint. If being around them brings calm instead of chaos, if talking to them feels like prayer instead of pressure, if their presence makes you want to be closer to God, that's not coincidence. That's confirmation. God's chosen person will never distract you from Him. They will draw you nearer. There are also times when God separates you from certain people so He can bring the right one. You cry over who left, not realizing that their exit made space for divine entry. God removes who drains you so He can send who fills you. You can't hold on to the wrong hands and still reach for God's promise. Some people are meant to teach you. Others are meant to walk with you. Learn to discern the difference. When God says, "This is your person," everything you lost will start to make sense. And when that person appears, don't test them by worldly standards. Don't question if they fit your list. Ask if they fit your spirit. Because God's choice will not only align with your heart, but will also challenge your growth. They'll push you toward purpose. They'll remind you to pray when you forget. They'll correct you in love. They'll protect your name when you're not in the room. They'll value your soul more than your surface. and you'll know they were sent by God. But even with all this, the human heart often hesitates. It hesitates because trust is costly. It means surrendering control. It means believing God more than your own fears. But you cannot hold divine destiny with trembling hands of doubt. You must let go and let God write the story. You must say, God, if you said, this is my person, I will trust you. Even if I don't understand, even if it takes time, even if others disagree, I will trust your word over their opinion. Because God's timing is never off. Sometimes He reveals the person long before He allows the connection to manifest. That's because both hearts must be ready. One may still be healing. One may still be growing. One may still be aligning. But the word stands firm. If God said it, it will happen. You can rest in that. God's word does not return void. When He declares something over your life, heaven moves to fulfill it. So if He said, this is your person, don't worry about the how or the when. Just stay faithful in the waiting. Waiting is not wasting when God is in control. While you wait, He's preparing both of you. He's aligning your purposes. He's building maturity, patience, and wisdom. Because when you finally come together, it will not be chaos. It will be clarity. You won't have to chase, force, or beg. Divine connections don't demand desperation. They flow with peace. And when it's time, everything will fall into place so naturally that you'll look back and say, only God could have done this. There are people right now ignoring God's voice because they fear what others will say. They fear judgment. They fear gossip. They fear making a mistake. But let me remind you, other people's opinions don't cancel God's direction. God's approval is greater than the world's applause. If He chose this person for you, stand firm. You don't owe anyone an explanation for what heaven confirmed. You just need to walk in obedience because obedience is greater than understanding. And one day, those who doubted will see that you followed divine instruction, not human logic. You might be wondering, but what if I'm wrong? Here's the truth. When God truly speaks, He confirms His word with peace. Peace that passes all confusion. Peace that settles your doubts. Peace that doesn't come from circumstances, but from the presence of God Himself. Follow that peace. It is your compass. It will never lead you astray. The enemy imitates excitement, but only God gives peace. When it's from Him, it won't drain your spirit. It will deepen your faith. And if you ever doubt again, go back to what He said. Remember the stillness you felt when He whispered, this is your person. Remember the signs, the confirmations, the moments of divine alignment. God doesn't change His word because of your temporary feelings. His choice remains firm. He doesn't choose based on emotion. He chooses based on purpose. And His purpose is unshakable. So today I tell you, don't ignore it. Don't run from it. Don't let fear make you miss what heaven sent. When God says this is your person, it's not just about companionship, it's about covenant. It's about two destinies intertwining under divine instruction. It's about building something eternal, something that glorifies God, something that carries His light into the world. You were not meant to walk alone forever. God has written someone into your story. Don't silence that truth with doubt. And remember, God doesn't send perfect people. He sends purposeful people. You're not called to find someone flawless. You're called to recognize someone faithful. Because when God is at the center, even imperfections become part of His plan. He uses your differences to strengthen your unity. He uses your trials to deepen your love. He uses your challenges to prove that what He ordained cannot be broken. What God brings together, He sustains with power and peace. If you've prayed for a sign, this is it. God heard your cry. He saw your tears. He knows how many times you were hurt, abandoned, and betrayed. And now He's sending you a soul that carries healing in their presence. Don't sabotage it by comparing them to your past. Don't push them away because of your scars. Let God use this person to restore your faith in love, trust, and connection again. Sometimes the person God chooses for you doesn't just love you, they help you find yourself again. There comes a time when God brings a truth so heavy upon your heart that you can no longer ignore it. You may try to reason it away. You may tell yourself it's only your imagination. You may push it aside, thinking it's too good to be true. But deep down, something greater than your understanding keeps pulling you back. That quiet, steady voice of God keeps saying, "This is the one I have chosen." And the more you resist, the stronger the voice becomes. Because when God speaks a word concerning your life, it will follow you until you submit to it. You can't outrun divine instruction. You can't silence a word that carries heaven's authority. When God chooses someone for you, it's not to make your life easier, it's to make your purpose clearer. The person God sends will not always come wrapped in comfort. Sometimes they arrive as a challenge, a mirror, a purifier. They will draw out of you what has been dormant. They will stir your spirit. They will force you to grow into the person God always intended you to be. God doesn't send people merely to please you. He sends them to prepare you. His chosen ones are not gifts of leisure. They are instruments of destiny. Through them, God shapes your patience, humility, and faith. When He says this is your person, He is also saying prepare for transformation. And when you resist that transformation, you resist the blessing. Many people lose the one God chose for them, not because they weren't meant to be together, but because they refused to grow. They wanted comfort, not calling. They wanted pleasure, not purpose. But God's choice is never about temporary satisfaction. It's about eternal fulfillment. You see, the person God chooses for you is not just meant to stand beside you. They are meant to walk with you toward His plan. They will strengthen your spirit, sharpen your mind, and help you carry the vision God placed within you. Sometimes the person God has chosen for you will appear during your most uncertain season. You will feel unready, unworthy, unfinished. But God says, I am not choosing you based on where you are. I am choosing you based on where I am taking you. You may feel incomplete. But God brings someone who complements your weakness with their strength. He designs two lives to interlock perfectly, not by accident, but by divine strategy. This is not about luck or chance. It's about divine timing. And when that timing arrives, it is unstoppable, and no distance, no doubt, no delay can hinder what God has declared. God has a way of revealing His chosen ones in silence. It's not through thunder or lightning, it's through peace. The peace that calms your heart when you think of them, the peace that surrounds you when you pray for them, the peace that assures you this is right. That peace is not emotional, it's spiritual. It's the voice of God saying, this is safe, this is mine, this is your person. Never underestimate the power of that peace. It is God's confirmation dressed in stillness. And yet many ignore that peace because they are addicted to noise. They chase excitement, drama, and temporary feelings thinking that's love. But true love, the one designed by God, doesn't come with confusion. It comes with clarity. It doesn't come with chaos. It comes with calm. You won't need to chase it because what God sends will recognize you when He says this is your person. Both souls will know. There will be recognition without explanation. You'll feel seen without word. That's what happens when heaven writes the connection. But even divine connections require protection. The moment God reveals your person, the enemy will attempt to sow division. He'll try to plant doubt in your heart, suspicion in your mind, and fear in your spirit. He will whisper, "What if you're wrong?" He will replay your past hurts to keep you from trusting again. Because he knows if you walk in unity with the one God has chosen for you, you become unstoppable. Two souls in divine agreement create a force too powerful for darkness to manipulate. That's why you must guard what God gives. Do not let outside opinions destroy inside peace. Remember, God does not speak confusion. If he has confirmed this person in your spirit, you must protect that confirmation with faith. Don't seek validation from the world for what heaven already approved. The world cannot understand the ways of God. What is divine will always appear strange to those who live by sight, not by faith. But your job is not to make others understand, it's to obey. God's plan needs no public vote. When he says this is your person, that's final. Heaven does not debate what God has decided. No, there is power in obedience. When you walk according to God's word, even when you don't understand it, you invite divine favor, and that favor will sustain what God ordained. Some people lose their divine connections because they listen to doubt instead of God. They let pride replace prayer. They let ego silence obedience. But God's blessing cannot survive where humility is absent. If he said, "This is your person," then humble yourself enough to nurture it. Relationships chosen by God require submission to his will, not to human expectation. You cannot carry divine love with carnal thinking. And let me tell you something profound. God's chosen person may not always match your ideal picture, but they will fit your purpose perfectly. They might come from a different background, a different journey, a different story, but their spirit will align with yours. God is not in the business of fulfilling your checklist. He is in the business of fulfilling his promise. When he joins two souls, he does it based on mission, not image. The question is not, do they look like what I wanted, but do they help me become who God wants me to be? When you start viewing people through the lens of divine purpose, you stop chasing compatibility and start pursuing calling. God's chosen ones are not measured by worldly compatibility. They are measured by spiritual alignment. And alignment is deeper than attraction. It's the merging of two spirits walking toward the same divine direction. It's peace without words, commitment without performance, and growth without competition. When God says, "This is your person," he is saying, "This is the one who will help you finish what I started in you." There's a reason God says not to ignore his voice, because every ignored instruction delays your destiny. Every hesitation creates spiritual distance between you and what God wants to bless. You may think you are protecting yourself, but in truth, you are postponing your joy. You are postponing the very fulfillment you prayed for. God's plan is always wrapped in obedience. When you say, "Yes, God, I will trust you," heaven begins to move on your behalf. Doors open, paths clear, hearts align, because obedience attracts divine acceleration. And even when others question your obedience, stay firm. You don't need to explain a divine connection to those who haven't heard the voice of God concerning your life. You only need to keep walking in faith. You only need to protect what he has entrusted to you. Every great destiny demands faith that defies logic. God's plans are rarely comfortable, but they are always complete. His path is rarely easy, but it always ends in peace. When he says, "This is your person," it means he's entrusting you with a sacred responsibility. He's saying, "Take care of what I've given you, for this is part of your promise. And yes, it will require prayer. You must keep your connection bathed in prayer, not prayer out of fear, but prayer out of gratitude. Prayer that says, God, thank you for trusting me with this soul. Because the more you pray for someone, the stronger the spiritual bond becomes. The more you seek God together, the more your union becomes unbreakable. Relationships founded on God's presence will endure storms that others cannot survive. When you and your person walk hand in hand with God at the center, no storm can sweep you apart. Even when misunderstandings arise, and they will, God will give you the wisdom to mend what the world would throw away. The world teaches people to quit when things get hard, but God teaches perseverance. He refines what He ordains. He doesn't discard it. When God joins two people for His glory, every challenge becomes a lesson. Every test becomes a testimony. What looks like a setback becomes preparation for deeper strength. So don't run when it gets hard. Kneel. Because when you kneel before God together, the bond becomes unshakable. And remember, when God says this is your person, He is not promising you a perfect journey, but a purposeful one. There will be moments of trial, moments of doubt, moments of stretching, but those moments are where love matures. God doesn't send someone just to fill your time. He sends someone to fulfill His purpose through you. That's why His choices don't make sense to the flesh, but make perfect sense to the Spirit. The bond He ordains is one that teaches you endurance, forgiveness, patience, and faithfulness, because through that relationship, He's not just building a connection, He's building your character. When God gives you a word, it's not just sound, it's seed. It carries destiny within it. It carries direction, wisdom, and divine alignment. And when God plants that seed in your spirit and says, this is your person, that word is not meant to be debated. It's meant to be nurtured. The soil of faith must protect it. The waters of prayer must sustain it. The light of obedience must help it grow. If you let fear, pride, or doubt choke it, you'll bury what God intended to bloom. Every divine relationship is a seed from heaven. It grows only when you trust the one who planted it. There is a sacred rhythm in the way God works. He never rushes, but He's never late. You may wonder why He revealed your person at this particular time. Why now? Why them? Why after so much heartbreak? Because God waits for your heart to mature before He releases your answer. He knows that timing is everything. The person He has chosen for you might have crossed your path before, but your heart wasn't ready. Your eyes were still clouded by the past. You were still holding on to what God had already removed. But now, after the refining, after the wilderness, after the long nights of prayer, your spirit has been prepared to recognize what your pain once blinded you from. That's why when God speaks this time, you feel it deeper. You don't just hear His voice, you know it. You recognize His tone because you've walked long enough in silence to understand it. You know when it's Him because His word comes with peace that silences every storm within. And when He says this is your person, it carries that peace. It feels heavy yet freeing. It feels sacred yet simple. You cannot explain it logically because divine things are never meant to be explained. They are meant to be experienced. But be careful because whenever God gives revelation, the enemy sends distraction. He'll try to distort what God made clear. He'll send confusion, doubt, and impatience. He'll whisper, maybe you misunderstood. He'll remind you of your failures, your fears, and your unworthiness. Because he knows that if you trust what God said, you will walk in power. If you believe the word, you will protect the blessing. So the battle is not against the person, it's against your perception. It's against your ability to stand on what God said, even when it doesn't make sense yet. And that's the true test of faith, trusting what God said, not what you see. When you walk by faith, you stop relying on evidence and start relying on essence. You stop needing confirmation from people and start resting in conviction from God. When He said, "This is your person," He didn't ask you to understand the path. He asked you to walk it. Faith doesn't need all the detail. It only needs direction. And the moment you obey, heaven begins to arrange every step in your favor. Obedience to God's voice often looks foolish to the world. It may even look foolish to you at first, but remember, divine instructions rarely align with human logic. God's wisdom transcends what you can calculate. God often chooses the unlikely, the overlooked, and the unseen to fulfill His divine plan. So if the one He's chosen for you doesn't match your picture of perfection, maybe it's time to release your expectations and cling to His revelation, because His vision stretches far beyond your preferences. He isn't focused on the moment. He's focused on your legacy, your destiny, your spiritual growth. And when your heart aligns with that divine will, something extraordinary begins to unfold. You start to see God's fingerprints woven through every detail of your connection. Conversations that lift your spirit, silence that brings peace, distance that cannot weaken what was built by heaven. Each small moment feels like a prayer whispered and answered. That's when you know this isn't ordinary. This is holy. The kind of sacred that makes you thank God quietly when no one's watching. The kind of sacred that makes you feel chosen, not by a person, but by God Himself. But understand this, God's choice requires your cooperation. He can show you the person, but He won't force you to honor them. He can open the door, but He won't walk through it for you. Divine instruction demands human participation. You must act on what He revealed. Some of you are holding on to what God showed you in secret, but are afraid to move in faith publicly. You fear rejection, judgment, or failure. But if God said it, His word already carries protection. His plan already carries provision. His will already carries victory. You have nothing to fear when you walk in His truth. There will come a day when you'll look back and thank God that you obeyed even when it felt uncertain. You'll see how every delay was divine. You'll see how every unanswered prayer was actually God preparing something better. You'll see how every heartbreak was building in you the maturity to handle what's holy. And then you'll realize this was never just about finding the right person. It was about becoming the right soul for the person God prepared for you. Because sometimes God has to build you before He can bond you. He has to heal you before He can hand you the blessing. You cannot hold divine love with broken hands. You cannot nurture a holy connection with a fearful heart. That's why God took you through isolation, through silence, through pain. He was preparing your heart to receive something sacred. And now when He says this is your person, you're ready to receive it not from desperation, but from discernment. And yes, there will be moments when you question. There will be days when you ask God, "Are you sure?" Because your emotions waver, your patience thins, and your mind doubts what your spirit knows. But remember, faith is not the absence of questions. It's the decision to trust God even when questions remain unanswered. God's choice doesn't need your constant reassurance. It needs your constant obedience. Keep walking. Keep believing. Keep standing on the word He gave you. There's a hidden beauty in trusting God's timing, because when He finally brings everything together, it's effortless. You won't have to chase, convince, or force anything. The connection will move with the grace of divine order. Everything will align as if heaven itself orchestrated it because it did. What once felt impossible will suddenly feel natural. That's the fingerprint of God. That's how you know you're standing in something ordained, not manufactured. When God unites two souls, He weaves them together with purpose. It's not about mere companionship, it's about completion of calling. That's why the one He chooses for you will not distract you from Him. They will draw you closer. You'll pray more. You'll listen more. You'll walk more carefully because their presence will remind you of your responsibility to God. And that's how you know it's divine. It doesn't lead you away from the path of righteousness. It anchors you deeper in it. But never forget, divine connection is not an excuse for comfort. It's a call to purpose. God doesn't just give you someone to make you happy. He gives you someone to help you fulfill destiny. Together you'll fight spiritual battles, overcome storms, and lift each other in faith. And when the world sees you, they'll see the reflection of what it means when two people honor God above all else. That's why you must protect the connection from ego, impatience, and pride. The same humility that attracted God's favor is the humility that will sustain it. And if you ever feel tempted to walk away, remember this. Walking away from what God ordained doesn't bring peace. It brings emptiness. You can't replace divine with convenient. You can't replace ordained with ordinary. God's plan is irreplaceable. If you let fear make your decisions, you'll spend your days chasing imitations of what God already confirmed. Stay rooted in what He said. Don't let temporary discomfort make you forfeit eternal design. There's a deep wisdom in waiting for God's fulfillment, because when He brings something to pass, He ensures it's unshakable. What is built by human will can collapse under pressure. But what is established by God stands firm through storms. When He joins two souls, He surrounds them with His protection. And that protection doesn't mean the absence of trouble. It means the presence of divine covering. Even in disagreement, peace will return. Even in distance, connection will remain. Because what God ordains cannot be undone by human interference. When God whispers into your spirit that someone is meant to walk beside you, it is not a coincidence. It is not mere emotion. It is divine strategy. God does not send people by chance. He appoints them by purpose. Every connection that carries His fingerprint has an assignment attached to it. And if you ignore the one God has chosen for you, you might delay the very miracle you've been praying for. You see, when God says this is your person, He is not talking about temporary feelings. He is revealing destiny alignment. He is saying, this is the one who will help you build what I placed in your heart. Many people pray for guidance, for help, for a sign. But when the answer comes in the form of a person, they hesitate. They let fear speak louder than faith. They start analyzing what God has already confirmed. They question what their spirit already knows. And that is where many lose divine opportunities, because they forget that God's blessings often come wrapped in human form. When you pray for strength, God may send you someone to encourage you. When you pray for wisdom, He may send someone who challenges your thinking. When you pray for love, He may send someone who teaches you patience and understanding. Do not ignore them. For rejecting them is rejecting the very method God is using to answer your prayer. Sometimes the person God chooses for you will not look like what you expected. They may not come from the background you imagined. They may not speak the way you thought they would, and they may not fit the image you created in your mind. But their spirit will carry peace deep inside. You will feel something unexplainable. That peace is not human. It is divine confirmation. God speaks in peace, not confusion. The person He sends will not draw you away from your purpose, but closer to it. They will not drain your energy, but multiply your strength. They will not compete with your calling, but complement it. But here is the challenge. When God's choice enters your life, the enemy will always try to plant doubt. He will make you overthink, question, and delay. He will remind you of past pain, betrayal, and disappointment so that you fear trusting again. He knows that if you accept what God has sent, something powerful will happen. So he tries to distract you. That is why discernment is not a gift to be taken lightly. It is your spiritual radar. When God says this is your person, your mind might hesitate, but your spirit will know. And when your spirit knows, don't let fear talk you out of obedience. There are divine connections that carry generational purpose. God joins certain hearts not just for companionship, but for destiny. When two souls that are meant to be together unite under God's direction, miracles happen. They build, they rise, they overcome storms that others could not survive. Together they reflect God's power. Their bond becomes a living testimony of divine orchestration. But when one person hesitates, when one ignores what God said, the plan can be delayed. The beauty of God's mercy is that His will always finds a way. But how much pain, confusion, and wandering could be avoided if we simply listen the first time? You see, obedience to God is not just about what we do, it's about how we respond to His timing. If He says this is your person, He has already prepared that person's heart to walk with you. He has shaped their spirit, molded their patience, and written their love story to intertwine with yours. And if you reject them because of fear or pride, you are not rejecting a person, you are rejecting an answered prayer. God doesn't make random decisions. When He speaks, it is with precision. Sometimes the person God has chosen for you will come at a time when you least expect it. When you are healing, when you are rebuilding, when you have finally found peace and solitude. And that is when many turn away thinking, I don't want to be distracted again. But what if this isn't a distraction? What if this is the blessing? What if God waited until you healed so that you could see clearly? Not every new person is sent to repeat your pain. Some are sent to redeem it. God can send someone into your life to prove that love can be pure, that trust can be restored, and that partnership can still exist under His divine guidance. If you pray for God's will, you must be ready to accept God's choice. His choice may challenge you. His choice may require growth, patience, and faith. But that's what divine love does. It stretches you. It teaches you to love through understanding, to build through faith, and to stay through storms. God's chosen person will not be perfect, but they will be right for your purpose. And that is more important than perfection. Sometimes you will notice that no matter how much you try to walk away from that person, something keeps drawing you back. Not in a toxic way, but in a divine pull. Every time you try to forget, something reminds you. Every time you say it's over, you find peace only when you surrender to what God said. That is not coincidence. That is divine persistence. God will not allow you to have peace in disobedience. You will only find true rest when you align with His will. Remember this, when God joins two people, it is not just about emotion, it is about mission. There is a shared calling, a shared purpose. Together they become stronger, wiser, and more effective in fulfilling what God has placed on their lives. You're not meant to walk your destiny alone. Even the strongest need support, and sometimes that support comes in the form of someone God handpicked for you. Don't push away what you prayed for. Don't reject what you fasted for. Don't question what you know in your spirit to be true. Some people miss their divine partners because they keep comparing God's choice with their personal preference. They say, "But God, this isn't what I imagined." And God says, "You asked for what you needed, not what you imagined." What you imagine may satisfy your eyes, but what God sends will satisfy your soul. What you imagine might be exciting, but what God sends will be eternal. When you align with His wisdom, you begin to see beyond appearance and into purpose. You realize that true connection is not found in attraction alone. It's found in peace, prayer, and presence. There will come a time when God will test your obedience through relationships. He will place before you two choices: what looks good and what is good. One will appeal to your emotions, and the other will speak to your spirit. Only one will lead you closer to destiny. That's why you must learn to silence the noise and listen to the still small voice of God. Because when He says, "This is your person," the world might not understand, but your soul will. And maybe this person will not come in grandeur, but in humility. Maybe they will not speak loudly, but carry quiet strength. Maybe they will not promise you everything, but they will pray for you when no one else does. Pay attention to those small signs, because that's how God often reveals His chosen ones. Not through drama, but through peace. Not through chaos, but through calm. You must understand that the enemy wants to keep you distracted with counterfeit connections. People who look right but feel wrong. They may charm you, but they drain your peace. They may flatter you, but they pull you away from purpose. But the person God sends will carry divine energy. Being around them will not confuse you. It will align you. You will feel yourself becoming better, more focused, more at peace, more aware of your calling. That's how you know it's from God. Sometimes obeying God means letting go of your checklist, because divine love doesn't always follow logic. It follows obedience. The one God chooses for you may challenge you to grow in areas you ignored. They may mirror parts of you that need healing. That's not an accident. That's growth. Don't run from the person who makes you face yourself. Thank God for them. They are not sent to break you, but to build you. And when you recognize that this is the person God has chosen, honor it. Protect it. Pray for it. Don't let pride destroy what prayer built. Don't let fear replace faith. Don't let outside voices silence what God already confirmed in your spirit. Some blessings require maturity to maintain. Some divine unions require both hearts to surrender their own plans and say, "God, let your will be done." Because when both people are surrendered, the relationship becomes unstoppable. It becomes a testimony. When God unites two souls, no force on earth can tear them apart. Neither distance, nor confusion, nor the passing of time. In His perfect timing, God always restores what was meant to be. If He has declared that this is your person, trust that His word will prevail through every trial. You might walk through storms. You might endure seasons of silence. But what comes from heaven cannot be destroyed. It might bend, yet it will never break. It might pause, yet it will never fade. For what God ordains, He Himself upholds. So if your heart is stirred and you sense that God has revealed someone to you, don't dismiss it. Seek His confirmation, but don't delay your obedience. Many times what we call hesitation is simply fear in disguise. And fear has cost countless souls their divine appointments. God doesn't desire that you settle for what is easy. He desires that you step into what is eternal. When He says, "This is your person," He's not just pointing to love, He's unveiling destiny. There come moments in life when you sense you've outgrown the place you're in. You can't quite put it into words, yet something deep within starts to move. What once brought you joy now feels too small for your spirit. The people who once shared your laughter no longer resonate with the rhythm of your soul. Each morning you wake with a quiet whisper inside, "There's more." And somewhere within you know it's God stirring the change. Not as punishment, not as rejection, but because your spirit has outgrown your current space. He is preparing to lead you to the land that reflects your spirit's maturity. When God starts to shift your life, a divine restlessness rises within you. That unease isn't confusion. It's a holy transition. It's destiny itself whispering your name, calling you forward. You may not see it with your eyes, but God is stirring the ground beneath your feet. He's rearranging circumstances, closing doors, and shaking foundations. Because when your spirit outgrows a place, staying there becomes suffocated. And when God sees your spirit has reached a new level, He will never allow you to remain in soil that can no longer feed your roots. Some of you have been wondering why things don't fit anymore, why your job feels empty, why your friendships feel distant, why the things that once excited you now drain you. It's not that you've lost passion, it's that your purpose has expanded. You've matured spiritually, and your old environment can't contain your new strength. God is not punishing you, He's promoting you. He's taking you out of the land of limitation and into the land of divine alignment. Every time God wants to elevate you, He first disconnects you from what no longer serves your growth. He makes you uncomfortable so you'll stop settling. He removes the people who drain your spirit. He closes the doors that block your vision. It hurts. Yet, but what feels like rejection is often divine redirection. You think you're losing something, but you're actually being released. God is releasing you from what's beneath you so He can lead you to what's beyond you. When God moves you, it may not make sense to others. They'll look at you and wonder why you walked away from what looked good. But you know something they don't. Peace has left that place. The oil has dried up. The season has shifted. When God's presence departs from a place, staying becomes rebellion. You can't live on old manna. You can't drink from yesterday's well. You must follow where God's presence leads, even if it means walking away from comfort, applause, or familiarity. God doesn't bless where you were. He blesses where you're going. The blessing is never tied to a location. It's tied to obedience. The moment you obey His prompting, the path begins to open. You don't have to see the entire map. You just have to trust the direction. God doesn't give explanations. He gives instructions. And when you move by faith, even when the road looks uncertain, His power begins to manifest in your steps. Many people remain stuck because they refuse to move when God stirs them. They pray for change, but cling to the old. They want elevation without separation. But hear this: you cannot carry yesterday's weight into tomorrow's promise. You cannot walk into the new land while holding on to old attachments. God will never release the blessing until you release the burden. Sometimes the only thing standing between you and your destiny is your refusal to let go of what you've outgrown. There's a spiritual law. Everything that grows must be transplanted. A tree that stays in the same pot too long becomes root-bound. Its growth is choked by its own confinement. The same happens to your spirit. When you've reached the limits of your environment, God begins to uproot you. It may feel like instability, but it's actually divine repositioning. God is transplanting you to richer soil, a place that matches the depth of your faith, the maturity of your spirit, and the magnitude of your calling. Don't resist the uprooting. Don't fight the shift. Don't mourn the endings. Every ending in God's plan is an introduction to something greater. When He removes people, He's not being cruel. He's making space for those who carry the same light you do. When He closes doors, He's not blocking you. He's steering you toward the door that was built specifically for you. When He changes your surroundings, it's because your current atmosphere no longer matches your anointing. You see, your spirit and your surroundings must be in agreement. When your spirit rises higher, your environment must follow. That's why God is moving you. You can't carry heavenly purpose in a place built for earthly distraction. You can't walk in divine clarity while living among confusion. You can't hear God's whisper in a crowd that drowns out your peace. So God begins to separate you. He begins to isolate you, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Isolation often precedes elevation. Some of you feel lonely right now, wondering why no one understands your heart anymore. But you're not alone. You're being refined. God is stripping away every voice that competes with His voice. He's silencing the noise around you so you can hear His guidance clearly. The people who once surrounded you serve their purpose, but now God is building a circle that matches your vision. The next chapter of your life requires a different atmosphere, one that nurtures your destiny, not your doubts. When God moves you to the land that matches your spirit, everything begins to align. Opportunities begin to chase you. Peace floods your soul. Clarity replaces confusion. You begin to see why the past had to end the way it did. The tears you cried weren't wasted. They watered the soil of your next season. Every disappointment was a seed of direction. Every delay was divine timing. Every heartbreak was a purification of your purpose. Do not despise the wilderness. The wilderness is the bridge between where you were and where you're going. It's in the wilderness that God removes the residue of your old season. He teaches you to depend on Him, to trust His timing, and to walk by faith, not sight. The wilderness is not punishment, it's preparation. You can't step into the promised land with the mindset of captivity. You must be stripped of fear, pride, and dependency on human approval before you can carry divine authority. There are people listening to this who, in the middle of a shaking, you feel uncertain, detached, even lost. But hear this with all your heart. What feels like chaos is actually divine order rearranging your life. God is aligning the path beneath your feet. You may not understand the process, but one day you will look back and say, if God hadn't moved me, I would have missed my destiny. God's movements are often mysterious, but they always meaningful. You cannot build permanent roots in temporary places. Some environments were never meant to be forever. They were classrooms for your growth. Once you've learned the lesson, God expects you to move on. If you stay too long in a place that is expired, what once blessed you will begin to burden you. That's why your peace left. That's why your energy shifted. That's why you no longer feel inspired. Where you used to flourish, the season expired, but you're still standing in it. Move. God is calling you higher. There's a land spiritually, emotionally, sometimes even physically, that has been prepared specifically for your spirit. It carries your energy, your purpose, your divine frequency. The people there will understand your fire. The atmosphere will feed your faith. You won't have to shrink to fit in. You won't have to explain why you believe the way you do. In that land, your authenticity will be your access. Your obedience will be your oxygen. And your peace will be the sign that you've arrived where God intended. When God moves you, He doesn't just change your location, He transforms your identity. He removes the version of you that was built for survival and reveals the version that was created for significance. You'll notice your desires change, your language change, your focus shift. The things that once tempted you will no longer have power over you. The things that once intimidated you will now inspire you. Because when your environment matches your spirit, everything within you comes into divine harmony. But remember this, the enemy will try to keep you trapped in the old land. He'll whisper lies like, "You're not ready, you'll fail. What if it doesn't work?" But fear is the language of limitation. Faith is the language of movement. Every time you silence fear and take one step forward, heaven moves with you. You don't need to see the whole promise. You just need to move in obedience. Every step you take toward the unknown is a step into divine alignment. God will often test your willingness before revealing your reward. He'll ask, are you willing to leave what's familiar for what's divine? Are you willing to walk alone if that's what obedience requires? Are you willing to trust my hand when you can't see the path? Your answers determine your destiny. Because God cannot trust the next level to those who are still clinging to the comfort of the last. The land that matches your spirit is reserved for those who move in faith, not fear. Think of how many blessings are waiting for you beyond your comfort zone. Think of the peace that's waiting once you stop fighting God's direction. Think of the doors that will open the moment you step into the place where your spirit was meant to thrive. You will never know what God has prepared if you keep holding on to what He's trying to replace. The land ahead of you is not ordinary. It's sacred ground. It carries your next level, your next revelation, your next miracle. Don't measure your movement by how it looks right now. Sometimes the path to the promise looks like loss. Sometimes it feels like starting over. But God doesn't downgrade His children. He repositions them. Every closed door is proof that something greater is being prepared. Every delay is evidence that divine timing is at work. You might be walking through uncertainty now, but when you arrive at the land God has designed for your spirit, everything will suddenly make sense. The peace of that place will heal the pain of your past. The purpose of that place will redeem the confusion of your journey. The beauty of that place will make you forget the bitterness of the wilderness. God never moves you backward. Every divine relocation is an elevation. Even when it doesn't look like it, God never demotes. He develops. And when He moves, it's always towards something more fruitful, more aligned, more powerful. You may wonder why now? Why is this shift happening in my life? Because God sees your growth. He sees your private obedience, your quiet endurance, your faith in silence. He knows when your heart is ready for more, and when your heart aligns with His will, He begins to open doors no man can shut. You don't have to chase opportunity. Divine opportunity chases obedience. When your spirit matches the vibration of God's will, nothing can stop your promotion. Some of you are standing at the edge of transition. You can feel it. Something inside you knows your current season is complete. Don't let fear hold you hostage. The same God who guided you here will guide you there. The same God who provided in the desert will provide in the new land. The same God who protected you in battle will protect you in blessing. If He's leading you out, it's because something greater awaits. And when you step into that new land, walk with humility, gratitude, and boldness. Don't shrink. Don't apologize for the favor on your life. You've endured too much to doubt now. You've cried too long to question God's plan. Now lift your head high, not in pride, but in confidence that God fulfills what He starts. You're not moving backwards. You're being moved forward by divine command. There comes a time in every life when the inner voice becomes louder than the noise around you. It is not the voice of ambition or the cry of frustration. And it is the still divine whisper of God calling you to rise, to move, to step out of the familiar and into the unknown. That whisper will not let you rest. It will stir you in the middle of the night. It will unsettle your comfort and unsettle your complacency. It will not let you remain in a place that no longer nourishes your soul. Because when God has ordained a higher place for your spirit, He will not let you settle for less. You must understand this truth. Every divine movement begins with disruption. Before God establishes peace, He permits discomfort. Before He multiplies your blessings, He divides your attachments. That is how God works. He breaks you away from what is temporary so He can root you in what is eternal. The winds that shake your life are not meant to destroy you. They are meant to direct you. The very shaking that frightened you is the same force that will shift you into your promise. God's hand is behind every storm, every closed door, every detour. Nothing escapes His orchestration. What feels like chaos to you is divine precision in motion. When God begins to move you, it won't always look like promotion. Sometimes it will look like loss. You might lose people, places, and things you never thought you could live without. But God knows what your spirit can no longer carry. He knows when your circle has expired, when your environment has outlived its purpose, when your energy no longer fits the room you're in. So He begins to separate. And though separation may sting, it is sanctification in disguise. God is cleansing your atmosphere so your soul can breathe again. If you could see the land God is leading you to, you would stop mourning over what you lost. The place ahead of you carries peace that your past could never give. It carries opportunities that align with your calling, not your comfort. The land God is preparing for you is not ordinary ground. It's sacred territory. It's a realm where your spirit feels alive, where your talents are not wasted, where your purpose is recognized. It's a place where you no longer have to explain your light because those around you carry the same fire. God is not moving you to impress others. He's moving you to express who He created you to be. Some of you have been living beneath your spiritual potential. You've dimmed your light to make others comfortable. You've stayed quiet when your soul wanted to roar. You've tried to blend in when you were created to stand out. And now God is breaking that pattern. He's removing you from people who don't understand your fire. He's calling you to higher standards, higher wisdom, higher discipline. Because the land He's leading you to demands a new version of you. The version that walks in confidence, purity, and faith. Do not fear the unfamiliar. Do not fear the unknown. The unknown is where God reveals His greatest power. If you could predict everything, you would not need faith. God keeps you in suspense. So your trust in Him remains alive. The very uncertainty you feel is a sign that you're being guided by a force greater than logic. Logic asks for a map. Faith follows a voice. Logic needs proof. Faith moves with peace. And when God's peace floods your heart, that's all the confirmation you need. You don't have to see the finish line to take the first step. You just need to know that God is walking before you. The land that matches your spirit is not always the most glamorous, but it will be the most peaceful. Sometimes it's not a new city or career. It's a new mindset, a new rhythm, a new spiritual alignment. It's the state of being where you no longer chase validation, but walk in conviction. It's the season where you no longer explain your worth to people who refuse to see it. It's the realm where your peace becomes your compass and your obedience becomes your power. When you reach that place, everything around you begins to reflect your inner harmony. There are moments when you'll have to walk alone. The path of obedience is rarely crowded. People will question your choices because they cannot hear what God has spoken to you in private. But do not let their doubt make you disobedient. Move quietly. Move faithfully. Move even if no one applauds you. God doesn't require your popularity. He requires your surrender. And when you surrender to His direction, He will multiply what your human effort could never achieve. Sometimes God will hide you before He honors you. He will take you out of the spotlight, away from noise, and into solitude. It is there that He refines your heart. It is there that He detoxes your mind from the influence of the world. It is there that He whispers secrets only for your ears. You may think you've been forgotten, but you've actually been handpicked for preparation. You are being strengthened for the land ahead. You're being equipped for the weight of your next assignment. God will not send you unprepared into a place He designed for destiny. When you arrive in the land that matches your spirit, you will understand why every delay was necessary. You will look back at the closed doors and realize they protected you from premature exposure. You will see that every rejection redirected you to something divinely timed. You will understand that what you thought was isolation was actually insulation. God covering you from attacks you could not see. Every tear, every sleepless night, every disappointment was shaping you into the person who could handle the next level of favor. And once you step into that divine land, you must live with intentional gratitude. Don't forget the wilderness that trained you. Don't forget the night you prayed for, the peace you now feel. The blessings of God are sustained through remembrance. When you remember what He delivered you from, pride has no place. Gratitude keeps your spirit aligned. It reminds you that you are not in your new season because of luck or human effort. You are there because God willed it. And what God wills cannot be undone by man. Your new land will test you too. Every elevation brings new responsibility. God will not move you just to bless you. He moves you to use you. You become a vessel of peace, a messenger of wisdom, a bearer of light in dark places. You become the evidence of God's faithfulness. People will look at your story and see His power in motion. So walk with humility, knowing that your journey is not only about you, it's about everyone who will be inspired by your obedience. There will be moments when your faith will be stretched even in the new land. Growth does not stop after arrival. Every blessing contains another lesson. Every promotion carries a test of stewardship. Do not relax when things go well. Remain watchful. Remain prayerful. Remain connected to the source. Because comfort can be just as dangerous as hardship if it makes you forget the hand that led you. The land that matches your spirit is not a place of laziness. It's a place of continued surrender. If you sense God shifting your life, don't delay your obedience. Delayed obedience is still disobedience. Every time you hesitate, you extend your wilderness. The sooner you trust, the sooner you transition. God moves at the speed of your faith. You don't have to know how everything will unfold. You just need to know who is unfolding it. When you step out, the path appears. When you speak faith, the atmosphere responds. When you act in obedience, the heavens align. And when fear tries to hold you back, remember what God has already done for you. He has brought you through storms that should have destroyed you. He has protected you from enemies who plotted against you. He has opened doors no man could shut. If He did it before, He will do it again. The God who carried you through the valley will also guide you to the mountain. Do not underestimate the power of His plan. The same God who planted the vision in your heart will provide the ground for it to grow. You must trust that the land God is leading you to already exists. It is waiting for your arrival. It is waiting for your faith to catch up to your destiny. You may not see the full picture, but every step you take in obedience activates divine motion. Heaven moves when your faith moves, and even if you stumble along the way, God's mercy will keep you upright. He does not demand perfection. He desires progression. As long as you keep walking, you're moving toward your promise. In that new land, your spirit will feel a peace it has never known. You'll wake up each day with renewed clarity. You'll feel lighter, stronger, more centered. The noise of confusion will fade, and the presence of God will fill the space within you. You'll look around and realize you are finally where you belong. The waiting, the tears, the uncertainty, it was all preparation for this moment. You will stand upon the ground of fulfillment and realize that God's timing was flawless all along. When He leads you to the place that mirrors your spirit, you will stop chasing people. Those meant for you will be drawn to your presence. You will stop pleading for doors to open. The right opportunities will come seeking you. You will no longer fear the unknown, because you will understand that the unknown is where God crafts His greatest miracles. Your spirit will cease to battle its environment. Everything surrounding you will begin to reflect the peace within you. And that is the highest reward, to dwell in a place where your soul and your season are in harmony. When God starts to shift your position, it's not just a relocation. It's a transformation of identity, a divine awakening that calls for both courage and surrender. You'll feel the stirring before you ever see the change. You'll sense the invisible pull of destiny, a holy current urging you to rise beyond where you stand. The familiar will start to lose its hold. The voices that once guided you will grow faint. The routines that once felt comfortable will suddenly feel confining. This is the mark of divine transition. It means your spirit has reached maturity for the next dimension of your purpose. God is calling you into a land that mirrors the strength of your faith, the purity of your heart, and the magnitude of your calling. But with every divine movement comes testing. Before God entrusts you with new territory, He examines your heart. He wants to know if you can walk by faith when the path is invisible. He wants to know if you will still praise Him when nothing makes sense. He wants to see if your obedience is built on comfort or conviction. The land that matches your spirit is not given to the unstable or the easily shaken. It is reserved for those who trust even when they cannot trace, for those who walk even when they cannot see, for those who believe even when everything around them seems to contradict the promise. Many people pray for new blessings but resist new beginnings. They cry for transformation but cling to the old. Yet you cannot step into the future while your hands are still chained to the past. God cannot fill what is already full. He must empty you before He elevates you. That is why some things are falling apart. Not because you are cursed, but because you are being cleared. The breaking is not your ending, it is your cleansing. Every tear you cry is washing away what cannot go with you. Every disappointment is peeling off a layer of dependency. Every unanswered question is shaping your faith into unshakable trust. God is preparing you for the land that reflects who you have become, not who you used to be. When God leads you out, He does not always announce the destination. He simply says, "Move." Because if He told you everything, you might not believe it. The magnitude of His plans would overwhelm your limited perspective. So He guides you step by step, faith by faith, day by day. Each act of obedience unlocks another piece of the path. That is how divine movement works. It is revealed through surrender, not sight. God never requires you to understand before you obey. He requires you to trust before you see. And as you walk, you will notice something sacred. Doors begin to open without effort. People begin to appear who speak the same language of the Spirit. Opportunities begin to find you instead of you chasing them. That is the signature of divine alignment. When your spirit and your surroundings begin to agree, everything that once resisted you begins to flow toward you. The land that matches your spirit is not forced. It is fluid. It does not demand striving. It invites surrender. It feels like home, not because it's easy, but because it's ordained. You must remember, though, that not everyone will understand your movement. People who are bound to where they are will question why you are leaving. They will try to convince you that you're making a mistake, that you're being unrealistic, that you're walking away from security. But security without peace is a prison. What good is comfort if your spirit feels trapped? What good is stability if your soul feels suffocated? When God called you, He requires you to choose faith over familiarity. You cannot allow the opinions of the uncalled to silence the instruction of the divine. In the process of being moved, there will be moments when you feel isolated. You may lose companionship, applause, and recognition, but in those quiet moments, you will discover something more valuable: God's presence. He will become your closest companion, your steady guide, your inner strength. You will learn that you are never truly alone when your trust is anchored in Him. Isolation is not abandonment. It is consecration. God hides you when He wants to grow you. He removes distractions so your spirit can hear clearly. You are being set apart for something greater than visibility. You are being positioned for purpose. And once your heart has been refined, God will bring you into spaces that fit the rhythm of your spirit. You will walk into rooms where you no longer need to lower your energy to be accepted. You will speak and feel the atmosphere shift. You will connect with souls who recognize the fire within you. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. God always sends signs to let you know you're on the right path. The peace you feel in that place is proof that your spirit and your environment have finally met. But do not forget, new levels bring new lessons. The same faith that got you there must sustain you there. You cannot relax spiritually once you arrive. The land that matches your spirit requires stewardship. God will test your humility in the midst of abundance. He will test your gratitude when everything flows easily. He will see if you still seek Him when the storm has passed, because the greatest danger of blessings is forgetting the one who gave them. Never let prosperity make you proud. Never let progress make you pray less. Stay grounded. Stay grateful. Stay faithful. Sometimes the land that matches your spirit will not look like what you imagined. It might not have the grandeur you pictured, but it will have the grace you need. It may not sparkle with worldly success, but it will overflow with divine contentment. God's promises are not always wrapped in glamour. They are wrapped in peace. Peace is the truest sign of alignment. You may not have everything you want, but when your soul is at rest, you have everything you need. And when you find that peace, guard it, protect it like a treasure. Because peace is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of divine assurance. It is knowing that no matter what happens around you, God's hand remains steady upon your life. That peace is what sustains you in the storms. What anchors you when the world shakes, what carries you when your strength fades. The land that matches your spirit is a place where peace reigns above chaos, where purpose silences doubt, and where trust replaces fear. There is a spiritual law written deep in the design of life. Nothing aligned with God ever remains small. When you obey the call to move, you activate expansion. What once took years begins to happen in moments. What once seemed impossible begins to unfold naturally. That is not luck. That is divine law in motion. Growth follows obedience. Abundance follows faith. God is not waiting for the world to approve you. He is waiting for you to move where He already appointed your success. But before every new land comes a crossing, a moment where you must walk through uncertainty, you may face challenges, resistance, or even silence from heaven. Do not mistake God's silence for His absence. The teacher is always quiet during the test. In those moments, you are being trusted, not abandoned. God is watching how you handle transition, whether you complain or remain calm, whether you doubt or declare faith, whether you panic or pray. Your response in the middle determines your readiness for the promise ahead. There will be days when your flesh wants to go back, when the past seems easier than the unknown. But remember, there is no peace in returning to what God has left. You cannot build a future on the ruins of a completed season. The comfort of the past is the enemy of destiny. Keep walking forward. Even if it's slow, even if it's painful, even if it's uncertain, keep walking. Because every step you take toward obedience is a step closer to your divine inheritance. When you finally stand in the land that matches your spirit, you will see why the struggle was necessary. The pain that once broke you will become the wisdom that guides others. The tears that once blinded you will become the clarity that helps you see. The isolation that once wounded you will become the strength that sustains you. God wastes nothing. Every detail of your journey was part of a design far greater than you could comprehend. And then you will realize something profound. This was never about location. It was about transformation. The land was not outside of you. It was being prepared within you all along. God does not move you so much as He grows you until your surroundings can no longer contain your spirit. The moment your inner world aligns with His will, your outer world must adjust to match it. You become a living reflection of divine order. When God is moving you to the land that matches your spirit, the shift will not always feel gentle. It may come with storms, isolation, or a sudden change that shakes everything you thought was stable. But hear this truth. When God begins to reposition you, He does it not to destroy your comfort, but to awaken your calling. The ground beneath you may tremble, but that trembling is not destruction. It is transformation. God is removing you from the soil that can no longer sustain your growth and planting you in the territory where your destiny can finally bear fruit. The unfamiliar land is not punishment. It is purpose in disguise. When your spirit outgrows your surroundings, God intervenes. He knows when your environment no longer fits the measure of your faith. And in His divine wisdom, He orchestrates a movement that aligns your soul with His plan. You see, the land that matches your spirit is not chosen by your preferences. It is chosen by God's preparation. He knows where your gifts will be received, where your voice will be heard, and where your obedience will produce harvest. Sometimes that land is hidden behind discomfort. Sometimes you have to lose what you thought was secure before you gain what is sacred. God doesn't just move your body. He moves your heart, your mindset, your priorities, until they all point toward His direction. You may feel like everything is falling apart, but what's really happening is divine rearrangement. God is repositioning your life to fit the shape of your calling. There are moments when God isolates you, not because you are forgotten, but because the next season cannot include the noise of the last one. He separates you to elevate you. He withdraws you from places where your spirit feels suffocated and places you where your faith can breathe again. The land that matches your spirit is a place of divine alignment, where your prayers feel alive, where peace doesn't have to be chased, and where your soul feels at home with God's presence. Many people settle in lands that feed their comfort but starve their calling. But God in His mercy won't let you stay in a place beneath your potential. He will disturb your comfort to direct your destiny. When you feel restless and out of place, it may be the whisper of God saying, "This is not where your story ends." Your spirit knows what your eyes cannot see. It senses when the season has expired. It feels when the soil can no longer nourish what God planted within you. And that is when God steps in to move you toward the land that reflects His promise for your life. The movement may not be easy, but it will be worth it. Every tear you shed in transition will water the ground of your new beginning. Every closed door is a divine rejection meant to guide you toward a greater opportunity. God never moves you backward. He only moves you into better alignment with your purpose. When God begins to shift you, don't resist the change. Don't cling to what He's trying to release. You cannot enter the new land while holding on to the old one. The land that matches your spirit requires a new level of trust. It calls for you to walk in faith even when the path is unclear. God is not asking you to understand the route. He is asking you to trust the one who designed it. You may not know where you are going, but if God is leading, you can be certain it's a place prepared just for you. Every step you take in obedience draws you closer to divine fulfillment. Sometimes God removes the people who no longer align with your spirit because they cannot walk with you into the land He designed for you. When your spirit grows, your circle must change. Not everyone can handle where God is taking you. Some were meant to support your beginnings, but not your becoming. God knows who belongs in your next chapter, and He knows who will hinder your growth. Do not grieve the loss of those who walked away. Thank God for the pruning, because the right soil cannot produce fruit if it's crowded with weeds. The land that matches your spirit is not just a physical location. It's a spiritual atmosphere. It's where your heart can hear God clearly, where your faith can grow freely, and where your obedience produces results that glorify Him. It's the land where you no longer have to force your peace, because peace flows naturally from God's presence. In this land, everything about you starts to align. Your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, all moving in harmony with divine will. You begin to feel lighter, stronger, and more centered because you are finally in sync with God's design for your life. And let me tell you this, before God moves you to that land, He will test your readiness. He will test your patience, your faith, your loyalty. He will allow moments where it seems like nothing is working to see if you still trust His plan. Because the land that matches your spirit requires maturity. It requires a heart that has learned to depend on God even when everything else fails. Only those who have been refined in the fire can handle the abundance of divine placement. The wilderness you are walking through is not the end. It is the training ground for your promotion. God is not punishing you, He is preparing you. Every discomfort in your current environment is a message from heaven saying it's time to move. Every delay, every disappointment, every denial, it's all part of the process of relocation. God is not moving you because you failed. He's moving you because you've outgrown where you are. The people who once understood you may now misunderstand you, and that's okay. The soil that once nourished you may now resist you, and that's okay too. It means your roots are ready for new ground. God does not let you remain where you no longer belong. When God moves you, He provides in mysterious ways. You will find favor in unfamiliar places. Doors will open that were never supposed to open. Strangers will bless you. Opportunities will appear out of nowhere. Because when God authorizes your relocation, everything aligns in your favor. The same God who called you to move will sustain you when you arrive. You don't have to worry about how. It is already written in His plan. The path may look uncertain to you, but it's perfectly clear to God. The land that matches your spirit is a place where obedience meets overflow. You will find that when you obey God fully, even without understanding, blessings follow naturally. Peace becomes your companion. Strength becomes your identity. You no longer chase validation because the presence of God becomes your assurance. You walk differently, think differently, and live differently because you are no longer surviving. You are thriving in alignment with divine will. But remember this. Not everyone will celebrate your movement. Some will try to hold you back. Some will question your decision. Some will accuse you of abandoning what was familiar. But you cannot explain spiritual relocation to those who live by sight. You must walk by faith, not by approval. When God says move, you move. No matter who misunderstands it, the land that matches your spirit is not meant to please people. It's meant to fulfill purpose. And when you finally arrive in that land, you will realize why the journey had to be so hard. You will see why the pain was necessary. Every sleepless night, every unanswered question, every moment of loneliness, it was preparing your heart for the peace that was waiting ahead. The new land will not just bless you, it will reveal you. It will show you who you were always meant to be when unshaken by doubt and unhindered by limitation. And when that moment finally comes, when God settles you into the land that matches your spirit, you will understand that every tear had a purpose, every loss had a lesson, and every delay was divine timing. You will look back on the wilderness not with bitterness, but with gratitude. Because now you will see that it was in those lonely places that your spirit learned to depend completely on God. It was in the dark that your faith was strengthened. It was in the silence that your ears were tuned to His voice. The same God who led you through the storm has now established you on solid ground. You have not just arrived in a place, you have arrived in your destiny. The land that matches your spirit is not built on ease, but on endurance. It is the reward for your obedience, the fruit of your patience, and the reflection of your faith. In this place, your spirit will find rest because it has found alignment with divine purpose. You will feel peace, not because everything is perfect, but because you are exactly where God wants you to be. You will rise each morning not in fear, but in confidence, knowing that every breath, every step, every decision is guided by His hand. Do not rush this process. Do not fight His direction. When God moves you, it is because He sees what you cannot yet see. He is protecting you from unseen dangers and positioning you for unseen blessings. The place that resonates with your spirit is not just another chapter. It is the culmination of everything God has been preparing you to become. You were never created to remain in a single season forever. You were designed to rise, to transform, to expand, and to manifest the greatness He planted within you. So lift your gaze and step forward with confidence. You are not wandering. You are being guided. You are not overlooked. You are being chosen. Every detour, every delay, every closed door was directing you here, to the place marked with your name in heaven's blueprint. Stand firm in faith and hold this truth deep within. When God shifts your position, it is never regression. He moves you from confusion to clarity, from struggle to strength, from lack to divine abundance. When you least expect it, when your back is against the wall, when the math doesn't add up, when your hands feel empty, that's the moment God begins to move. Pay attention, because it's no coincidence you're hearing this today. This word is a divine appointment written just for you. God is about to overflow your life with financial favor. He's preparing to release blessings into the dry places that have been waiting for rain. You've wept. You've endured. You've worked faithfully. You've believed without seeing. And now heaven's storehouse is opening for you. There are seasons when everything seems to shrink around you. Bills multiply, doors close, opportunities vanish, and you whisper, "Has God forgotten me?" But hear this, God never forgets those who remain faithful. He has seen every hidden tear, every unseen sacrifice, every moment you chose obedience over ease. You thought it vanished into silence, but God says, "I've been saving it. I've been storing every seed of faith. And now I'm about to release favor like a river." When God decides to bless you, no economy can stop it. No bank can block it. No enemy can delay it. No circumstance can deny it, because when the favor of God comes, it doesn't follow logic. It breaks logic. God doesn't need your credit score to approve a miracle. God doesn't need the market to be strong before He promotes you. God doesn't check the headlines to determine your harvest. He moves according to His word, and His word never fails. Many people live as if favor is limited, as if blessings are scarce, as if success is for others and not for them. But the same God who fed Elijah during famine, who brought water out of a rock, who made manna fall from the heavens, that same God has not changed. If He could provide for a nation in the wilderness, He can surely overflow your account with what you need. What is impossible for man is effortless for God. You see a shortage, God sees an opportunity for demonstration. You see lack, God sees a stage for His abundance. But here's the truth. Before God floods your bank with favor, He tests your faith in the drought. The dry seasons are not punishment. They are preparation. When your hands are empty, God watches your heart. Do you still trust Him when nothing seems to work? Do you still give when you have little? Do you still praise when you're surrounded by pressure? Because those who stay faithful in the drought are the ones who are ready for the flood. There are some people listening right now who have been faithful for years, praying, working, believing, and waiting. You've stayed honest when others took shortcuts. You've helped others when you barely had enough for yourself. You've smiled when your heart was heavy. God saw it all. And I declare to you, your season of waiting is over. God is about to reward you in such a way that even your enemies will say, "Surely the hand of God is upon them." When God blesses, He does not bless halfway. When He opens a door, He opens it so wide that you'll forget the pain of all the closed ones. God doesn't send a drizzle of favor. He sends a flood, And a flood doesn't trickle in quietly. A flood rushes in suddenly. It overturns everything that was holding you back. It fills every dry valley and lifts every low place. That's what's about to happen in your life. The same account that looked empty is about to overflow. The same situation that seems stuck is about to shift. The same season that seems silent is about to sing. You've been surviving, but God is moving you into thriving. You've been counting coins, but God is about to multiply resources. You've been asking for daily bread, but God is preparing to hand you keys to storehouses you didn't build. The word favor means divine advantage when God puts His hand on your efforts and accelerates what was delayed. You may have worked for years with little to show, but one touch of God's favor can do in a day what effort couldn't do in a decade. Sometimes favor doesn't start with abundance. It starts with an instruction. God told Noah to build an ark when there was no rain. God told the widow to pour oil when she only had a drop. God told the fisherman to cast the net one more time after failure. Every miracle begins with a moment of obedience. Don't despise the instruction just because it looks small. That little act of obedience could be the doorway to your overflow. Some of you are standing at the edge of your flood, but fear is holding you back. You're asking, what if I fail again? What if it doesn't work? But God says, what if it does? You cannot walk into divine favor while holding on to human fear. Faith is the bridge between your lack and your overflow. You've got to step into the deep even when you can't see the bottom. You've got to believe that if God said He will do it, then He will do it. The flood of favor that's coming will not only bless you, it'll bless everyone connected to you. When God blessed Abraham, his household prospered. When God blessed Joseph, even the prison couldn't contain it. When God blessed Jacob, everything he touched multiplied. That's the kind of favor God is about to release. It's contagious favor. Wherever you go, things will shift. Doors will open. Not because of your resume, but because of your relationship with God. There are people who overlooked you, who rejected you, who said you'd never make it. They saw your struggle, but didn't see your seed. They saw your pain, but didn't see your faith. But when God floods your life with favor, He will make those same people witnesses of your elevation. They will watch you rise from scarcity to abundance, from overlooked to overflowing, from broken to blessed. Don't be surprised when God starts doing things that don't make sense. The numbers won't add up. The opportunity will seem too big. The timing will seem impossible. But that's the language of favor. It bypasses logic and moves according to divine timing. You don't need to understand how it will happen. You just need to believe that it will. The word flood means something that cannot be stopped or contained. When a flood comes, it breaks boundaries, overtakes obstacles, and changes landscapes. That's what God's favor is about to do. It's going to break through the barriers that limited your family for generations. It's going to overtake debts, delays, and doubts. It's going to change the entire landscape of your life. The areas where you once struggled will become testimonies. Some of you think your financial condition defines your worth. It does not. Your value comes from the God who owns everything. If He can turn dust into man, He can turn your lack into plenty. God does not need the world's approval to prosper you. He can raise you from obscurity, promote you from nowhere, and fund your destiny through unexpected sources. Favor doesn't always show up through familiar faces. Sometimes God uses strangers to bless you. Sometimes He uses situations that look like setbacks to position you for increase. Don't be frustrated by the delays. They are divine arrangements. Every no that you heard was God protecting you from premature success. Every rejection was redirection toward the right door. You thought it was the end, but it was preparation for overflow. When the flood comes, it won't come in drops. It will come in waves. Opportunities will chase you. Breakthroughs will find you. Resources will align without your effort. What took years before will happen in moments. God is compressing time for you because your faith has matured. You have endured the drought with dignity, and now you are qualified for the downpour. You may be asking why now? Because the appointed time has come. God doesn't forget His promises. He fulfills them at the perfect moment. You've been sowing in tears, but now you will reap in joy. You've been laboring in secret, but now you will shine in public. God is not just blessing your present, He's rewriting your future. The flood of favor will not only restore what you lost, it will multiply it beyond recognition. There's a principle that says, when the ground is dry long enough, even a small rain becomes a flood. Some of you have walked through such long seasons of lack that even a drop of blessing feels big. But God is not sending a drizzle, He's sending a downpour. What's about to happen will exceed your expectations. You're about to see deposits, opportunities, and ideas you didn't even pray for. Because when God decides to bless, He does exceedingly and abundantly beyond what you could ask or imagine. Favor has a sound. It's the sound of doors unlocking that were shut for years. It's the sound of new connections calling your name. It's the sound of the impossible becoming possible. You are about to hear that sound. And when you do, don't shrink back in fear. Step forward in gratitude. God is not blessing you just to make you comfortable. He's blessing you to make you impactful. The flood of favor is not for selfish accumulation. It's for divine distribution. God is blessing you so you can bless others. He's entrusting you with resources so you can rebuild what was broken. When favor flows, responsibility grows. Use what God gives to lift others, to heal wounds, to create hope. The more you pour out, the more God will pour in. The secret to sustained favor is generosity. You can't pray for abundance and live in scarcity thinking. You can't expect overflow while speaking defeat. Align your words with what you're believing for. Speak as if the flood is already here. Declare that your account is blessed, that your work is anointed, that your path is prosperous. Words create atmosphere. God responds to faith-filled speech. When you speak abundance, heaven hears alignment. Look around. The signs are already showing. The small breakthroughs, the unexpected calls, the quiet nudges, they're all hints that God is preparing something bigger. Don't dismiss the small signs. They are the whispers before the wave. When you sense movement in the Spirit, get ready because the physical manifestation follows soon after. Some people will not understand your next season. They'll wonder how you're progressing so fast. They'll say, "You're lucky." But it's not luck. It's God. Favor is not luck. It's divine appointment. It's the invisible hand of God turning ordinary moments into extraordinary outcomes. There's a reason you didn't quit when others did. There's a reason you're still standing despite everything you face. It's because God wasn't finished with you. You've walked through loss, but you didn't lose your faith. You've been emptied out, but now you're about to be filled. You've been hidden, but now you're about to be highlighted. God's favor will speak louder than your struggle. Because when God decides it is your time to rise, nothing in this world can keep you small. When God decides it's time for your account to overflow, every force that tried to drain you will be drowned in the flood of divine favor. You are entering a season where God Himself will take control of your increase. The same hand that wrote your destiny will now release your abundance. You are about to witness a shift that cannot be explained, only experienced. Do not be afraid of sudden change, because sometimes God has to shake the ground to release the gold. The shaking is not destruction, it's preparation. When you feel everything moving, it's not instability. It's God rearranging your environment to fit your next level. You prayed for blessings, but what you didn't know is that blessings often come disguised as transitions. You asked for favor, and God began closing certain doors, not to punish you, but to guide you to the one that leads to overflow. When God floods your bank with favor, He will not just add to your life, He will multiply. There's a difference between addition and multiplication. Addition is slow and predictable, but multiplication is divine and supernatural. God doesn't operate by simple math. He operates by divine acceleration. What took others years will take you months. What drained others will empower you. That is the mystery of favor. It takes what is small and makes it significant. You must understand this truth. Favor is not earned. It is entrusted. God gives favor to those who can carry it without pride. If your heart remains pure, your blessings will remain flowing. The moment you start depending on the blessing instead of the blesser, the flow slows down. But when you keep your eyes on God, the source never dries. Favor is a trust, and God gives it to those who use it to uplift others, not just themselves. The reason you faced so many financial struggles in the past was because God was building your character before He gave you capacity. You needed to learn discipline before He released destiny. You needed to understand the value of little before He could trust you with much. Every moment of lack was a classroom. Every closed door was a lesson. You didn't fail. You were being formed. And now that you passed the test, God is ready to open the vault. There are times when God withholds a blessing to strengthen your faith muscles. Just as a tree's roots grow deepest in drought, your faith grows strongest in struggle. And now that your roots are deep, God can safely pour out more without it destroying you, while He can trust you with weight because your foundation is strong. The favor that's coming will not break you. It will build you. You see, God never gives a flood where there's no foundation. Before the flood of favor, He ensures your heart can handle the height. Some people receive blessings too soon and crumble beneath the pressure. But you've been seasoned, tested, and purified. The storm didn't sink you, it strengthened you. The drought didn't destroy you, it deepened you. That's why you're ready now. You've learned how to depend on God when you had nothing, and that's why He's about to trust you with everything. When the flood comes, don't apologize for your overflow. Don't feel guilty for your gain. You prayed for this. You waited for this. You endured for this. God doesn't bless you to make others comfortable. He blesses you to make Himself known. Your prosperity will be a testimony, not a show. Let your blessings preach louder than your words. Let people see your peace, your progress, your provision, and know that only God could have done it. There will be people who question how it happened so fast. They'll say, "You must have had connections," and you'll smile because you did, a divine connection. When you walk with God, you walk with the ultimate source of supply. He knows where every hidden treasure is. He knows which hearts to touch, which systems to shift, which doors to open. That's why you don't need to compete. You need only to trust. The favor that's coming is not temporary. It's generational. God is about to bless you in such a way that your children and their children will live off the harvest of your faith. You are breaking the cycle of lack. You're ending the story of survival and beginning the legacy of abundance. Where your ancestors struggled, you will succeed. Where others planted in tears, you will reap in joy. The flood of favor is not only financial, it's familial, spiritual, and generational. Do not underestimate the power of alignment. When your actions, words, and faith align with the will of God, the heavens respond. You cannot speak defeat and expect victory. You cannot walk in fear and expect favor. The mind must match the miracle. You must start thinking like someone who is about to overflow. Speak like someone who already has the blessing. Live as if the flood has already begun. Because when faith meets expectation, manifestation follows. Sometimes God hides your harvest in unfamiliar places. That's why you must be open to new ideas, new streams, new connections. Don't limit how God can bless you. He may not use the same source twice. The same way He brought water from a rock, He can bring wealth from unexpected means. The favor that's coming may not look familiar, but it will feel divine. Trust that if God is behind it, it's safe to step into. There are people right now who are sitting in rooms with your name on their lips. Opportunities are being prepared in silence. Approvals are being signed while you sleep. Paths are being cleared while you wait. This is what divine favor looks like. Unseen movement that becomes visible at the appointed time. While you thought nothing was happening, God was working behind the scenes. And when it manifests, it will seem sudden, but it will be the result of long preparation. You must learn to recognize the sound of favor. It doesn't always come with noise. Sometimes it whispers. It begins as peace, as a calm assurance in your heart that something is shifting. That peace is the sound of doors unlocking. It's the sound of destiny turning its face toward you. When you feel that peace, don't question it. Embrace it. That's God saying, "Get ready. I'm about to move." The flood of favor is not coming to make you boast. It's coming to make you believe deeper. When you see what God does next, your faith will expand. You will stop praying small prayers. You will stop doubting big dreams. Because once you taste divine abundance, you realize that you were never meant to live in scarcity. God created you to reflect His greatness, not your limitations. But let me remind you, favor doesn't eliminate effort. It empowers it. God will bless the work of your hands, not the idleness of your hope. If you want the flood to continue, keep moving, keep sowing, keep believing. The favor is the wind, but you must raise the sail. When you work in alignment with God's flow, nothing can stop your increase. Some of you have been frustrated because your harvest seems delayed. But delays are not denials. They're divine timing. God knows the exact moment when your flood will have the greatest impact. He knows when the market, the people, and your spirit are all ready. He's not late. He's strategic. And when it happens, it will be right on time. God is about to place you in positions where your presence alone will bring prosperity. People will want to be connected to you because wherever you go, increase follows. That's not pride. That's the power of divine favor. You carry an atmosphere of blessing. Your words will carry weight. Your ideas will attract support. Your actions will produce multiplication. Don't measure your future by your current resources. God can do more with your nothing than you can do with everything. He is not limited by numbers, location, or logic. He can take one small idea and turn it into a global breakthrough. He can take one act of obedience and turn it into generational wealth. All he needs is your faith. Faith is the currency that activates divine transactions. When the flood of favor hits, don't forget to give back. Remember those who helped you when you had nothing. Help those who can't repay you. That's how you keep the flow open. The river that gives never runs dry. God increases those who invest in others. If you make yourself a channel, He'll make sure you never run out of supply. Prepare yourself now. Put your finances in order. Set clear goals. Broaden your vision. Don't wait for the downpour to start building your foundation. God releases blessings to those who are positioned and prepared. If you're expecting increase, create space for it. Eliminate your debts. Fortify your structure, because favor without readiness can turn into frustration. But when preparation meets purpose, favor becomes your foundation. Remember, God doesn't just reward effort, He honors intention. When your heart is aligned with His will, even the smallest step carries divine power. Speak with truth, live with discipline, give with humility, and watch as God multiplies everything you place in His hands. You are stepping into a season of divine financial awakening. You are moving from surviving to thriving, from scraping by to overflowing. Every limitation that held your progress is breaking. Every spirit of lack is being silenced. Every dry field is receiving rain. God has seen your faithfulness, and now He's responding with fullness. The world may say the economy is unstable, but the kingdom of God never collapses. While others panic, you will prosper. While others hoard, you will help. While others complain, you will celebrate. Because your source is not the system, it's God. He is the supplier who never runs out, the giver who never forgets, the provider who never fails. When God chooses to move in your life, He does not need permission from anyone. He does not consult your background, your qualifications, or your past mistakes. When He decides to favor you, the world must adjust. Every barrier that stood in your way must bow. Every voice that spoke against you will be silenced by the volume of His blessing. When God lifts you, no one can pull you down. When He says it's time, no human delay can stop the divine schedule. God is about to demonstrate His power in your life in ways that defy every human explanation. You will see doors open that you never knocked on. You will receive calls that you never expected. You will walk into opportunities that were hidden from you for years. This is not coincidence. It is divine orchestration. God is aligning moments, people, and pathways to deliver to you what was promised long ago. Some blessings have been waiting for your maturity. Some favor has been waiting for your readiness. And now heaven has declared the time has come. There is a rhythm to God's timing. Sometimes He hides you while He works on you. Sometimes He delays your public reward to strengthen your private foundation. But when the preparation is complete, revelation follows. When God reveals what He has been working on behind the scenes, even you will stand in awe. You will say, I didn't know He was working on that level for me. You may not have seen it forming, but soon you will see it flooding. Understand this. God doesn't only bless to provide, He blesses to prove. When He favors you, it's a demonstration of His faithfulness. He's showing the world that those who trust Him never lose. You may have been laughed at for your faith, mocked for your patience, or criticized for your hope. But God is about to use the flood of favor to silence every critic. The same mouths that spoke doubt will now speak amazement. The same eyes that rolled in disbelief will now widen in wonder. When God floods your bank with favor, it won't be a random deposit, it will be a divine endorsement. It's His way of saying, you stayed faithful when no one was watching. You kept believing when it made no sense. You honored me when it cost you. This is the reward for integrity. This is the outcome of obedience. Every seed you planted in tears will now be reaped in laughter. But hear this truth. Favor is not only about receiving, it's also about responsibility. God doesn't bless to make you comfortable. He blesses to make you useful. Every coin, every opportunity, every connection that comes into your life through divine favor carries an assignment. It's meant to heal, to help, to build, to restore. You are not called to hoard the blessing, but to release it strategically. The more you become a vessel of blessing, the more God keeps filling you. A selfish heart will always dry out, but a generous spirit will never run empty. If you want the favor to continue flowing, guard your motives. Don't let pride poison what prayer produced. Don't forget God in your abundance. The moment you think the blessing came by your effort, you invite decline. But when you acknowledge that every good thing comes from God, the flow remains pure and powerful. Gratitude keeps the gates of favor open. The humble are always replenished because they never take the source for granted. You see, true wealth is not just the balance in your account. It's the peace in your soul, the wisdom in your decisions, and the joy that doesn't depend on circumstances. When God blesses you, He doesn't just give you numbers. He gives you wholeness. You will have enough to live well, enough to give freely, and enough to rest peacefully. The world chases wealth to fill emptiness, but those who walk with God attract favor that fills every area of light. There are people who think they can outsmart divine timing, but you cannot manipulate the hand of God. You cannot rush what He is still refining. Every season has its purpose. The delay was not punishment. It was preparation. While you thought nothing was happening, God was building capacity inside you. You were learning how to manage scarcity so you could later manage overflow. You were learning patience so that abundance wouldn't make you proud. You were learning to depend on God, not on man. Every lesson was essential for the next level. And when God brings the flood of favor, He doesn't just give you what you ask for. He gives you more than you imagine. He gives you double for every disappointment, increase for every insult, and elevation for every humiliation. You will realize that no pain was wasted. Every wound was a seed for wisdom. Every setback was setting up a comeback. God never takes without intending to return something greater. Sometimes the flood of favor will separate you from certain people. Not everyone can handle your new level. Some relationships are seasonal. They were necessary for your formation, but not for your future. Don't fight to stay where God is calling you to rise. Let go of what drains your peace and hold on to what builds your faith. Divine favor often exposes who is truly for you and who was only with you for what they could take. When the blessings come, so does clarity. You must prepare your spirit to handle sudden change. Many people pray for overflow, but are unprepared for its weight. Blessing can be heavy if the heart isn't steady. Stay rooted in humility. Keep your morning prayer strong. Keep your heart clean. Don't let money make you forget mercy. Don't let position make you lose compassion. You were blessed to be a blessing, not to build a throne for yourself. God's favor is not seasonal. It is sustained through obedience. The same faith that brought you to this point must continue to guide you forward. Don't stop believing just because you're comfortable. Don't stop giving just because you're full. Keep sowing into others. Keep encouraging the broken. Keep feeding the hungry, because generosity is the secret language of divine abundance. There will be moments when you feel overwhelmed by the magnitude of what God is doing. You will wake up and wonder, why me? But understand this, it's because God trusts you. He saw your endurance. He saw your silent tears. He saw you keep going when you could have quit. You earned nothing, but you proved everything. You showed God that even in loss, you wouldn't lose your faith. And now He's saying you are ready for more. Do not underestimate how quickly God can turn everything around. One moment of divine favor can cancel years of struggle. One phone call, one opportunity, one encounter can rewrite your entire story. God doesn't need time. He uses timing. He can take what was stagnant for years and bring it to life in a single day. That is the power of divine acceleration. When the ordinary becomes extraordinary because God breathed upon it. But I must tell you this truth. With great favor comes greater testing. The enemy will try to distract you with pride, with greed, with comfort. But remember where you came from. Remember the nights you prayed. Remember the seasons when all you had was faith. Let those memories keep you grounded. Let gratitude guard your heart from corruption. Because the only thing stronger than favor is humility. A humble heart can carry endless blessing. The flood of favor will not only overflow your bank, it will overflow your spirit. You will feel new energy in your purpose. You will think clearer, dream bigger, and walk bolder. You will no longer live in survival mode. You will start making decisions from abundance, not fear. You will no longer chase. You will attract. Because when you walk with God, you become magnetic to miracles. This flood of favor is not a one-time event. It's a divine pattern. Once it begins, it keeps expanding. God will use one blessing to open another. One success will birth 10 more. One connection will unlock a chain of opportunities. The key is to stay aligned. As long as you stay near the source, the river will never stop flowing. There will come a day when you'll look back at the old version of yourself, the one who worried about bills, who doubted, who almost gave up. And you'll smile because you'll realize that the same place where you cried will become the place where you'll count blessings. The same hands that once begged will now bless. The same heart that once broke will now overflow. God will not just restore, He will rebuild you stronger than before. And when you reach that place, lift your hands in gratitude. Remember that it was God who made a way when there was no way. It was God who turned the drought into rain. It was God who took your empty jar and filled it with oil. It was God who whispered, "Hold on," when you wanted to quit. Every blessing that's coming is not just a sign of prosperity. It's a sign of divine remembrance. God has not forgotten you. The flood is near. You can feel it in your spirit. Things are shifting. Ideas are awakening. People are being positioned. The heavens are heavy with blessing. Prepare yourself, because when God releases it, you won't have room to contain it. It will be pressed down, running over and overflowing. You will lend and not borrow. You will give and not lack. You will rise and not fall. You will walk in favor that never fades, because it was authored by the one who never fails, God, the sustainer, the provider, the giver of every good thing. And when that divine flood pours into your life, don't say finally, say faithfully. Because God was never late. He was always on time, preparing, pruning, and positioning you for a flood so great that even your enemies will have to acknowledge, surely God has favored them. When God decides to bless you, no power in this world can stop it. No enemy can delay it, no circumstance can deny it, and no wall can contain it. When God says it's time, the heavens respond. The earth shifts and favor begins to flow like a mighty river breaking through a dam. You may have been waiting. You may have been struggling. But listen closely. God is about to flood your bank with favor. The same hands that shape the stars and spread the heavens are about to release abundance over every dry area of your life. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are positioned for a divine overflow that only God could orchestrate. You see, favor doesn't follow the rules of man. Favor doesn't bow to economy or inflation or systems built by human hands. When God sends favor, it breaks logic. It moves beyond qualifications, beyond experience, beyond connections. It comes wrapped in the invisible authority of heaven. And when that favor reaches your life, what was once impossible suddenly becomes inevitable. Doors that were shut for years will begin to open without a knock. People who once said no will find themselves saying yes without knowing why. Because when God releases favor, He softens hearts, rearranges circumstances, and commands creation itself to align with His will for your life. You've been tested not to be punished, but to be prepared. Every delay was shaping your faith. Every loss was clearing the path. Every disappointment was pruning your spirit for divine abundance. God never withholds without purpose. He withholds to position. And when that positioning is complete, the flood begins. It's not a sprinkle, not a drizzle, but a divine flood of provision, opportunity, and increase. Your hands won't have enough room to contain it. Your plans won't be big enough to capture it because God does not move according to your measure. He moves according to His promise. Sometimes God will let you experience lack so that when abundance comes, you'll recognize the source. He allows the drought so that when the rain falls, you'll drop to your knees in gratitude, not pride. That's why you've been walking through that valley. That's why doors closed, friends left, and nothing seemed to move. God was setting the stage for His glory. And when He floods your life with favor, there will be no doubt in anyone's mind that it was God and God alone who did it. There's a reason you've been feeling the shift lately, that inner stirring, that something is changing. That's not your imagination. That's the Spirit of God announcing a new season. The winds of favor are beginning to blow. The clouds of blessing are gathering over your life. You've sown in tears. You prayed in silence. And you've endured in faith. Now the season of reaping is at hand. God is about to show you that He is not limited by your salary, your situation, or your surroundings. His favor is not determined by numbers. It's determined by your obedience and your faith. Do not let doubt rob you of expectation. When you expect small, you limit what God can do through you. But when you lift your eyes in faith, when you dare to believe that the same God who parted seas can part your financial storm, then you create space for miracles to happen. God honors big faith because big faith honors Him. He is about to release something so overwhelming, so divine, that you'll look back and say, if I had known what God was planning, I would have never worried. You might be surrounded by problems right now, But let me tell you, problems are not proof that God is absent. Problems are proof that God is preparing a performance. He loves to show His strength. When your strength has run out, He loves to step in when you've done all you can. That's when the floodgates open. That's when the unexpected happens. That's when you receive a call, an opportunity, a breakthrough that shifts everything in your favor. You're about to move from waiting to walking in what you prayed for. The same God who fed the birds of the air and clothed the lilies of the field is about to supply you with more than enough. You're about to go from surviving to thriving, from borrowing to lending, from lack to overflow. And it won't happen because of luck or labor. It will happen because of favor. The kind of favor that overtakes you, surprises you, and humbles you. And I must tell you this truth. Favor is not given to the careless. It's given to the faithful. God's favor flows through vessels that are ready to carry it. So guard your heart. Stay humble and increase. Stay thankful in abundance. Because favor without gratitude becomes a curse. But favor wrapped in humility becomes a testimony that multiplies blessings beyond measure. This is why God is moving in secret right now. You can't see it yet, but He's aligning the unseen. He's shifting the hearts of people you've never met. He's preparing opportunities you don't yet know exist. He's opening rooms that have your name on the door. The unseen hand of God is working behind the curtain of your life. And soon He will pull it back and reveal what He's been building all along. A flood of divine favor that will shock those who doubted you. The favor that's coming will erase years of struggle. It will silence the whispers of those who mocked your faith. It will remind you that God never forgets the faithful. Every seed you've sown, every tear you've cried, every moment you refused to quit, it's all been recorded in heaven's account. And now the return is coming with interest. God is about to pour out what the enemy tried to steal. What you lost will be replaced, multiplied, and restored by His mighty hand. Even now, as you listen, something inside you is awakening. That's the voice of faith rising again. You thought your time had passed, but God says, I'm not done with you yet. You thought the best was behind you, but God is declaring, your best has not yet begun. The coming days will surprise you, not because you earned it, but because you believe. God rewards those who trust when everything says give up. He rewards those who sow when nothing seems to grow. He rewards those who keep praising when life feels unfair. That is the soil where favor takes root. And when that favor sprouts, it won't just bless your life. It will bless generations after you. Because divine favor doesn't end with you. It flows through you. Your children, your home, your work, everything connected to you will begin to prosper. God's favor is contagious. When it rests on your life, it begins to touch everyone around you. You become a vessel of His goodness, a reflection of His power, and a living testimony that God is still in the business of turning ordinary lives into extraordinary stories. So lift your head. The drought is over. The clouds are full. The river of God's favor is about to overflow into your hands. Don't doubt what you prayed for. Don't question what you believe for. God has heard you. And now He's about to show you what it looks like when heaven answers. The favor coming your way will not just fill your account. It will fill your heart with awe and your mouth with praise. Because when God blesses, He doesn't bless halfway. He blesses until the overflow becomes undeniable. So now, my friends, stand firm in this truth. God is about to flood your life with favor that cannot be measured by numbers, confined by banks or limited by human understanding. What's coming is not natural increase. It is divine overflow. It's the kind of blessing that changes your walk, your words, and your world. When God decides to favor you, He rewrites your story. He rearranges your destiny, and He restores what was once lost with greater power and purpose. You are stepping into a season where what you have prayed for in tears will manifest in abundance. The season of not enough is giving way to the season of more than enough. Do not underestimate what God can do overnight. In one act of divine power, He can open a door that was sealed for years. He can turn rejection into redirection, debt into testimony, and pain into prosperity. One divine instruction, one act of obedience, one moment of faith. That's all it takes for the floodgates to open. God has seen your struggle, and He has stored every prayer you've whispered in the dark. He has not ignored your faithfulness. He has not turned a deaf ear to your cries. Every act of faith, no matter how small, has built the bridge that His favor is now about to cross into your life. You may have been walking through a season of drought where nothing seemed to move. Nothing seemed to grow, and everything you tried felt like it crumbled in your hands. But hear this with power: the drought was not your destiny. It was your preparation. The emptiness was the soil where your next miracle was planted. God was clearing out what could not stay so He could pour in what was always meant for you. That's why the favor that's arriving now will be unstoppable. It won't trickle. It will overflow. It won't come in fragments. It will come in completeness, because God isn't sending you remnants. He's sending you a flood, a divine flood that carries abundance and glory. Soon people will look at you in awe and ask, "How did this happen?" They will notice the light on your face, the calm in your heart, and the unmistakable favor surrounding your life. They may not understand it, but you will. You'll know it wasn't your talent. It wasn't your plan. It was the hand of God moving on your behalf. Every triumph will echo His name. Every blessing will remind you that you were never lucky. You were chosen. You were protected. You were favored by heaven itself.